Hi everyone, it's Mikael. In this tutorial, we're gonna combine everything you learned in the previous video and learn the trick named Steal. The steal is probably one of the most famous contact search trick, but it's also a concept on itself because you will see later on there's many variations you can apply to that trick. But when you can finally make all the pieces together, make it happen, it's so satisfying. So I'm gonna guide you through the steps. We're gonna go step by step like we did in a different video. You have almost everything you need actually already to learn it. The only difference that you're going to see also through different angle of view is that we're going to need to include a circular motion into the rolling, and that we'll see in the next step. We're going to start by the base that you should have now studied if you follow the previous tutorial. It's a requirement for the trick. The center is placed on your hand here. Let it roll, grab on the neck and come back. That should be solid if we want to go to this step. Now we're going to do exactly the same. As a difference, then instead of starting in front of us, we're going to start on the side. And while we are turning our head to the other side, the staff starts to roll and go down our neck, wrap, then end up in the other side in the same way. So there's like a loop is starting to be created, and you can see the circular motion on the view from the front that I will share now.
Okay.
It's important that you let the movement going from one side to another create the roll. You see my hand is going a little bit above 90, which is create the rotation, but not too much, otherwise you will create too much speed. And not let it start, then turn. You want to start turning to create the roll of the body. And same for him. To make it easier, you can let the staff a little bit inside of the center, so you don't have all the weight on one hand, but pretty much. And so this one, the other hand is just here as a support and kind of a guide, but it's mainly now the left hand for me which is guiding. So I start to move to the other side, the roll create, straight, and now again going to the other side. It's important to not be too much in the center here, otherwise when I will come here, the staff will not be able to go around the neck. This is what we saw in the previous video. This is just a reminder. You can also use, if you feel more comfortable, this hand just here as a guidance and going to the other side. I advise more to put the same both hands together because it looks visually better. But being aware that there's one hand who is always taking most of the weight and the balance on it. Good. By doing so, now we create this circular motion that we need to play with. Before we were in a U motion, and now we have like this loop will start to be created. Now that you feel a bit more comfortable with this idea of this circular motion, we're going to include that with, this time, only one hand. So I'm going to place the staff on the center of my hand, here, and this hand is just here as security, but not anymore the support. And I'm going to go with the left, like we did before, like a motion to the left with my hand, and by doing so, the staff is going to start to roll. I block it, other shoulder, and now I'm opening to the right with the staff. And I can do the same in the other direction. Opening to the side, neck, control, again, to the left. Now this might be a bit more comfortable, but it's just like a challenge also, like, and getting comfortable with this circle we start to create. And when you feel more comfortable, you see now I'm almost not blocking it anymore. I'm simply fill the gap with the shoulder and the neck grab as one, getting there. This is a bit more tricky. It's okay if it's not clean, it's just for you to get the idea, and we can go after to the next step. As you can maybe notice for yourself already, there's different way to enter the step. For the purpose of that video, I will just name them differently so you can see a bit more clearly what I mean. Here we start flat, in the meaning of we were horizontal, like parallel to the ground at 90 degrees, either with the two hands on the side or one hand also to the side. We are flat and parallel to the ground. Now you also see that often when you try to catch it, it's going on the side and you end up in your hand like this. And this brings us to the other way to start a step, which is actually the most famous one, will be to be above the head. And with this twist of the wrist, starting the circular motion, going around the neck, and end up on the side of your wrist, back in your head. And this is what we're going to break down now together. You want the center to be in front of your hand here. You can see it. I'm going to twist my hand till I can't anymore. Then you can see that the center is ready and on the line of my arm. And I simply let it go, roll to my shoulder. And I control here. Go around my neck, control back here. And here I'm going to do this motion with my arm to bring it to my right arm. And it's arriving in the same position on the other side. You see? It's rolling, and the last movement is going out, and you can catch it. Okay, now you just saw how I want you to twist your wrist till you arrive at that point and let it roll. It's really important that you are not too much off center. If you are a bit, it's good because it's gonna, or on the line or slightly external, but not too much there. Otherwise, when it's gonna roll, it's gonna lose too much and you're gonna lose control of it. It's really a slight balance, but you will learn later on how to control it and what to do with it. Also, there will be some variation possible to go inside, but for the moment, we really want it to be either really center on your wrist or slightly to the left, but not too much. And your first drill now, we're going to do it on 3 steps, but the first one will be to start here. I remember the center a bit in front. You let it fall, and you see like my hand is going down to not give too much of a crazy slope here. You want something way more down, so it's the speed will be way less. You let it roll and you block. I want you to do that a few times to feel comfortable to block here and to have the control of it. And you can also make it go back up. And to make it go back up is like we saw in the last video, you need to put your the joint of your shoulder out of the way. It's gonna roll and go out of your hand in a way that you can catch it back. That's the first drill, and you need to do that both hands, obviously. The second drill now to gain control will be to start from the neck wrap that we learned in the last video and go directly here to the last part of the steel and the roll up to the end. So for this one, we just simply do a neck grab, but here it's really important that you do this slight motion in front and you have already your shoulder ready with the joint out to be able to make this sweet roll for the step. Again. And practice this part as much as you can, and it will be like a sweet transition in it. The last drill to be able to go fully into the full steel is to go back to this exercise we did a few videos before, where the center is off. I'm blocking it here with my chin and with my shoulder, and to be comfortable to do this. And you want it to be as flat as possible, and so for this, I'm using my shoulder will go in the back and control it back. See it from my back. Now that you have all those pieces clear and in control, you can go for it. We're going to start here, for example, from the left hand. And you let it go. Now, obviously, maybe it's going to not happen so smoothly, but it's okay. With like the drill, I just show you, if you keep on working on them, at some point it's going to give you enough control that it will just go by itself. One thing can happen, and it's an advice that can be used by anyone. Anything around the neck and around the head is scary as fuck. And for a lot of people, like the staff going here, it is not chill. And so we want to move to try to either avoid the staff or we're going to try to balance with our body. The thing is, like, the more movement you're going to do, the more chance to hurt yourself is going to increase. So actually, if you really want to avoid hurting yourself, don't move that much. Do only the movement you just saw before in the breakdown. And the least you move, the more secure you're going to be. I know it's easy to say. I know sometimes it can be scary. I took many stuff in the face. Actually, it's going to happen. It's something you need to accept. It's part of the game of playing with a stick. But if you just follow the breakdown and move as little as possible, it's going to work out. And before ending this video, I'm going to share with you some of the steel variation existing, and then I will share on my Patreon later on. this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and then maybe you already managed to have your first Steve clean. If it's not the case, just keep on working. It's gonna work out. If you want, there's a link of my Patreon on the description below, and there will be more video coming on this playlist soon. And I wish you an amazing training.